Many thanks for your company. In our first story, the Media Foundation for West Africa, MFWA, has called on the National Communications Authority to, as a matter of urgency, let the public know steps is taken to resolve the impasse at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. The board of GBC days ago asked Dr. Kwame Ekufuano-Nto, Director General of the GBC, to proceed on leave, which he has refused. Daniel Dazi has the statement from the MFWA. Daniel, what more does the statement say? Well, the statement says, and I read, the National Media Commission, NMC, the institution that is constitutionally mandated to ensure the viability, sustainability, relevance and impact of the state broadcaster, has woefully failed to discharge its crucial mandate over the years, leading to the current sad state of the GBC. So basically blaming the NMC for where the GBC is now. It also says the NMC can be said to have the ultimate responsibility and oversight over the affairs of the GBC and other state-owned media. But since the TV license and all the controversies surrounding it started, the NMC has played a surprisingly dormant role. So the statement goes on to explain that they expected the NMC to have been more vocal when the matters of TV license came up. Sure. Let me just make this quick correction. Earlier I said the National Communications Authority is actually the NMC, which also put Dr. Anof-Nto to be Director General of GBC. So what are they recommending in this? They are actually asking the NMC to do four things. First of all, they should, as a matter of urgency, make a public announcement of the steps being taken to resolve the current impasse as the GBC in order to assuage public fears about the eventual collapse of the national broadcaster. Also, as a matter of urgency, let the public know whether the board of GBC can vary the terms of appointment of the Director General, and they request, that's the MFWA requests, that the NMC comes out with a comprehensive and holistic plan for transforming GBC into a truly viable and sustainable public service broadcaster. And finally, for a broader stakeholder engagement to review the operations of the NMC itself over the years and come up with recommendations on how to strengthen the commission and its work. Do we know if the NMC has been served with this statement? We don't know yet, but we are following up. All right, great. We'll bring you those updates surely here on Joe News. Now, following the killing of a police officer on Sunday at the Kwabena police station and the killing of two officers sometime 2 weeks ago, some Ghanaians are raising concerns about what they say is the high state of insecurity in the country. Joe News' Maxwell Akpakpa has been speaking to some residents of Choko who want government to provide the security agencies with the needed logistics to enable them carry out their duties effectively.
Yes, and the wife, and my will bear 1 month in Nasi Asatono, a yummy yapa and a permit. Now, I dear bear better, CCT, no, a bit me abwa. You say, I'm not born my common with this, I do my bonny win. I'm sure I say, a bit me home. Interesting. I'm not being found. I'm boy home by never see a bad dream. Okay, if you part as police stations, Nina, CCT, it's me, born, maybe busy. I feel 2018. Police for no not also. Too much. Okay.
Essentially, what she's saying is that in the year 2018, we've recorded lots of deaths having to do with people with the security agencies, police officers especially. She says that, I mean, for some of the deaths, she thinks we'd be able to apprehend whoever committed those acts if we had, CCTV cameras installed at their various, stations. I mean, yesterday we were at the Kwabena police station, and we didn't really see anything when we were talking about CCTV cameras. CCTV, closed circuit television, security cameras we're talking about here. Well, she says that we need that in all of our police stations to ensure that, when people work in there, commit crime, we should be able to, trace them with ease.
Yeah, I have heard a lot of news in the country. But right now we need a soldier to control everything right now, because the policemen, people are not respecting. For example, that Fulani people, how they are destroying things in Ghana, they are robbing and so. About last 2 months, we went to North. Fulani people, they go attack us. From Tumu to they go attack us on the road. You see, they go attack us on the road. So we need a soldier. Because if one soldier come here right now, everything will be disciplined. But the police, we don't respect them. All the Ghanaians, we don't respect them. So we need a soldier. Each and every police station, we have to get about 5 soldiers or 4 soldiers. Because when they are going patrol, they miss them, police and soldier. So everything will be okay. But if police alone, they don't fear the police. If you have a gun, they don't.
People know they fear the police.
Oh, it be like we are in civilian rule, but the time we are in revolution, we all do the match about the soldiers. Okay. But right now we are. You see, it's not fine.
Okay. And finally, let me find out from you. And because education, security, economy, we are the first. Security and answer then. The first.
Oh, security need to me back first. Bet me aboying. I will say to me, no more boy home ban. You must say the next year no more. Yeah. I'm buying because.
She says security is the first thing on her priority list, and she thinks that if people who are supposed to protect us are going through this, then we are just.
I'm not a police. Me offer me no more police. This imagine say Bibi say Bibi na two more for this.
Well, he says he has relatives. She has relatives who are police officers. If I mean such attacks, happen to them, she would be very concerned and very.
Maxwell Agbaba there. Away from that, a Cape Coast Circuit Court on Monday remanded a prison officer with the Ankafor Maximum Security Prisons, Lance Corporal Abibulai Nangba, to prison custody. The prison officer is alleged to have thrown parcels of dried leaves suspected to be Indian hemp over the perimeter wall of the Ankafor Maximum Security Prisons. He was shot in the hip by his colleagues on duty who saw him and was subsequently arrested. Richard Kojanyako is on the phone with details. Hello, Richard.
Hi.
Well, quite an interesting story. First, help us understand. We know that this Lance Corporal threw what is suspected to be dried leaves over the perimeter wall of the Ankafor prisons. Did he throw it into the compound or outside the compound?
Yes, he threw it. Anyone who knows the Ankafor Maximum Security, it's a huge edifice. And so what he did was that he arranged with he's alleged to have arranged with some inmates of the prisons. And so he's been supplying them with substances believed to be Indian hemp. And so on this fateful day, he threw some of these leaves into the inner perimeter so that the prisoners, the inmates, would go for them and then be using them at the prison. So the case has been lingering on for the past 2 years. It happened in 2016. There's been back and forth. But yesterday, when the Circuit Court 3, the court remanded him to prison custody, he failed to fulfill the bond or the bond that the court ordered for him to obey. So that's what really happened.
And do we know what this bond is?
Well, so he was supposed to have been provided a surety, 10,000 surety imposed on him by the trial court judge, but he failed, and so that is why the court ordered that he should be remanded to reappear on the 29th of January 2018.
But what exactly transpired in court apart from he being remanded?
Well, because the case has been lingering on for the past years and for several months panning, he was granted bail. But after the court progressed with the case, the judge decided that the suspect or the accused should be given another bail, and the bail that they were seeking, he couldn't fulfill it, and so a 10,000 CD bail, but he couldn't provide it, and that is why the court ordered that he should be sent to the prison custody, and so that is why his colleagues sent him to the very prison that he was throwing the Indian hemp in.
Richard, finally, you say this case started 2 years ago. Do we know why we've still not been able to ascertain if those dried leaves are indeed Indian hemp?
Well, it's normally the prosecutors normally have been complaining about the gathering of evidences and the others back and forth, and so that is why it's lingered on. But initially, he was remanded into police custody. But now, because he failed to fulfill the bond or the surety requirement, he has to be, go in to the prison custody.
We'll come back later to you for more updates. That's all time will allow us. Thank you very much, Richard Kojanyako, our Central Regional Correspondent. Now, securing a seat in class at the Nkbani Primary School in the Pandai district of the Northern Region is for the swift. Pupils race every morning for small planks placed on the floor in the classroom. Those who are not so lucky would have to sit through classes, either sitting on the bare floor or jostle on the few benches available, but without tables. Jojo Kobna reports the situation, which is not exclusive to that primary school, is negatively affecting education in the entire district.
Assembly, please.
Welcome to Nkbani DA School in the Pandai district of the Northern Region. It is time for morning assembly.
Hey, patience, patience.
Show me, my daddy saw me.
Are you hungry? See it loudly. Those who are over there, will they hear you?
Saw me, my daddy saw me. Saw me, my daddy saw me. If you want to, then you can do so. My daddy saw me.
Pupils start marching to their classroom, but for primary 5, they have no classroom, so they march under a tree for school lessons. Awi Lydia is 11 years and passionate about school. According to her teacher, she never misses school and is always eager to answer questions even if the answer is wrong.
The day is wet.
Wait, clap on her.
Lydia is not happy that her class sits under a tree to study, but what worries her more is the conditions under which pupils in Nursery 1, Kindergarten and Primary 1 study.
The chairs is not there. The one the children sit in the floor is not good. I want them to help us to behind the chairs.
So I moved to find out how pupils in lower classes study. To be guaranteed a seat where there's just a piece of wood on the bare floor, pupils would have to race. Over 200 pupils crammed in a classroom. It is stressful controlling all these children. The teacher says to create a sense of order, some Nursery 1 to Kindergarten pupils are sent outside after marking the register. As I travel through many communities in Pandai, I'm becoming very numb to situations like this. Unfortunately, they do not have tutors to instruct them, and so they just slam it hard here, sometimes on pieces of wood. This reflects the sad state of education here in Pandai. Pupils in Primary 3 do not have enough furniture, so others sit on the floor while many others cram on a bench. Madamba Innocent, the headmaster, said the school has only 3 teachers, and so teaching all the classes becomes difficult.
We don't know why it's happened so, because we are only 3 and we are managing the upper primary. We sometimes go there and help them because they don't have permanent teacher. We do graduate, we do teach them sometimes, but we graduate those who are good. We do selections and graduate them, no odd. We don't send them as others classes.
Awi Lydia wants government to be fair to them and provide them good infrastructure and learning materials.
But school is not good. I want them, masters is not there. I want them to help us. We have the master. This school is be nice.
The district chief executive of Pandai, Kofi Tatablata, is aware of the challenges facing many schools in his district, but says his district is not generating enough money to solve the problem.
When you go to a school like the GA Primary, we still have some of the students that are lying on the floor. There's no furniture. as the DC, I feel bad because I am the head of the district. I represent the president in the district. And as and when I see those things, I feel bad and I feel ashamed. There are avenues for us to raise revenue, and I think we are doing that. But what we are expecting is not coming like the way we should have been getting it.
If conditions here are not improved, the gap between rural and urban education would continue to widen. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Now, growing slums in Zongo communities are worsening the plight of residents already plagued by poverty, unemployment, disease, crime, and other antisocial activities. Many of the settlements in Kumasi have seen tremendous upgrade in road infrastructure in recent times. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko reports, beneath the flamboyance is a story of filth created by the people. In the following piece, he takes us into some Zongo communities in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi.
Areas like Abuabu Zongo, Sewaba and Aswase benefited from massive facelift in road infrastructure, especially under the erstwhile NDC government. The beauty of the roads and paved streets to the casual observer fades away into cosmetics and exposes fundamental issues with direct negative impact on the people. The popular Zongos in Kumasi are settler communities that constantly attract the youth, mostly from northern Ghana and neighboring countries, in search of greener pastures. Many of the areas remain underdeveloped, with low level of education among residents. Makeshift structures dominate residential facilities with poorly constructed alleys. 15-year-old shoe repairer Abubakar is from Burkina Faso. He lives alone and plies his trade here for a living.
Post office.
Post office?
No.
Abontain now. Where then now did he?
Me papa no oba dani.
Well, so I've been talking to 15-year-old Abubakar, and he's saying that his mom, his parents are all in Burkina Faso. He came here with one of his family members, but he's been abandoned to his fate. So he sleeps at the Abuabu post office on a bare floor. And in the daytime, he works as a shoe shine boy. I asked him how much he earns. He says 5 cedis. There are many of such children in the Zongos, plying trade of their own, fending for themselves. Abubakar represents Zongo's teeming youth who are in search of decent jobs. These young men come here with their tools, looking for menial jobs like weeding people's compounds. Many of them are into buying and selling of metal scraps. Along the Abuabu Susan storm drain are these clusters of settlements in filthy, demeaning environment. These kinds of habitats continue to rise almost by the day. These men at Abuabu Zongo want government to provide jobs to keep the youth busy.
They even put it as if you are like you are a politician, you have a godfather in politics, then you will get a job, whether MPP or NDC. But if you don't have any godfather, you will not get the job.
People are exposed to the risk due to poor sanitation, as evident here at Dagomba Line, where residents live close to drains turned into dykes. The unbearable stench, ironically, is good enough for this young man to enjoy his meal of rice known in Hausa as shinkafa. This drain was supposed to be used for liquid waste. It's sited deep within the heart of Dagomba Line. Now, residents here have a separate mentality of what drains are to be used for, whilst other people channel liquid waste through this. Residents of Dagumba Line, Abuabo and its environs who live around this drain have decided to use this one for the dumping of solid waste. So behind me here you can see all manner of solid waste, from plastic to solid human excreta wrapped in polythene sacks.
Let's stay in Kumasi. Residents of Abuabo Extension woke up to the shocking spectacle of the body of a young man hanging on a 33,000-volt high-tension pole. Now, they believe he is part of a faceless group that has been stealing power cables in the area, leading to intermittent loss of electricity in the community. A resident told Love News they saw bright electric sparks around 2 a.m. and they went to the scene to find the man identified as Fatao hanging on the high-tension pole. Erastus Asari Donko of Love FM has been to the scene and joins us via phone. Hello, Erastus.
Yes.
It must be really shocking, but is the body of this young man still hanging on that pole?
Then the body has been brought down, and from 2 a.m. when it actually happened, some eyewitnesses say they met him when he was still alive around 2 a.m. and he was begging them to bring him down, so to speak. But they, having been very angry about how people have been cutting cables in their area, denying them power, they decided that if he himself is able to come down, they will lynch him to death. And so he stayed there and died. But this morning, the police came around together with the Ghana National Fire Service and the ECG officials, and they were able to cut power off to that area and bring the body down. And if you look at the body, he was really prepared to do a particular job. He had this leather belt around his waist, just like the ECG officials wear when they climb such pylons. And he had these gloves, and he had some jackets on, and he has locked himself up over there so he could not fall when he was climbing. And so he looked very prepared indeed for this job. And so they have brought the body down. They are going to do an autopsy, but the ECG is warning that those pylons are no-go areas for anybody with such power loads in them.
Erastus, now, according to residents in the area, this occurred at 2 a.m. What time did the police and other officials arrive?
Well, I understand from the same residents that the police were there at 2 a.m., but then visibility was very poor. And if you look at these high-tension, high-voltage poles, they are very, very tall indeed, and any mistake will get another death. And so they decided to act in the form of daylight so that they will be able to see their way proper. So it was around just this morning around 9 that they were able to team up with the fire service to bring the body down. And did they please explain why they couldn't rely on the fire service and the ECG at 2 a.m. to rescue the gentleman? Because as you said, the residents claim he was still alive at the time they saw him. Exactly. I spoke with ACP Kwekubwa, who is the divisional commander for Menchia, and what he said was that though they were there at 2 a.m., it was advised that it would be very unsafe for them to conduct that operation to bring the body down on such a very dangerous pole in the middle of the night. And so they have to wait till daylight to be able to conduct that operation, and that is how come they had to wait till this morning. Thank you very much, Erastus Asari Donko, there with the updates of that incident that happened around 2 a.m. according to residents at Abuabo Extension. You're watching Joy News today. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll bring you more stories to stay.
Thanks for staying here on Joy News today. National security operatives are investigating the circumstances under which two luxurious Mercedes-Benz vehicles valued at $3.2 million were found at the residence of the Ketu South Municipal Chief Executive, Elliot Edem Agbenowo. The two luxury cars, which were impounded by the customs and national security officials, were allegedly smuggled into the country through the Aflao border and deposited at the MC's residence. Officials say the two cars did not have the required documentation covering their importation into the country. My colleague with myjoyonline.com, Jerry Mordi, has been following the story and joins me in studio. Jerry, so when did the officials impound these vehicles, and what has happened subsequently?
Okay, the vehicles were impounded on 10th January this year at the residence of the MCE, like you said. And then they were subsequently brought to Accra, where national security has taken over, and they've started investigating into how they came into the country without the necessary custom documentation. And we've been talking to the MCE, and he explained that that was his official residence. He's not actually living there because the place is under renovation. And his security called him and told him about the cars being brought into his residence. According to him, the security initially tried to prevent them from entering the premises, but they forcibly entered the premises with the vehicles, and they called him. So he called the Aflao sector commander for SEPS, or Customs Division, and then they went in there and then impounded the vehicles and then reported to national security, and they took the vehicles.
So these people who forcibly parked the vehicles at the Ketu South MC's official residence, does he know them?
Yeah, he's giving me one name that, and then with contact number. I've been trying to contact the guy, but he's not answering my phone.
Who are they? Why would they want to park these vehicles at his residence?
Sure, according to information, that is a way some guys do business over there. You know, the Ghana-Togo border has a lot of unapproved routes, so they are able to smuggle in vehicles without the custom documents, and then they find a way of bringing them into the bigger city or into the country, and then they sell them and make their money. And he suspects that it is one of those guys who actually used his residence because it is a government premises. They try to put the vehicles there so that nobody would come around and try to inspect them. And then they were attempting to bring them to Accra on a tow truck, according to the SEPS sector commander for Aflao, Mr. Frank Ashong. It was when they were attempting to bring them to Accra, that was when they accustomed them and then brought the vehicles to Accra. So they are currently at the national security premises. They are investigating who actually owns the vehicle. According to my source, my very prominent businessman came initially and said that one of the vehicles was to be presented to the president as a gift. But they later found out that that is not true. And then after they did their investigation and found out it was not true, they've been trying to locate the guy, but they are not finding him. So that's where it is gotten to currently.
All right, Jerry, I'll have you hold on because we've got the MCE for Ketu South, Elliot Edem Agbenowo, on the line. Thank you so much for joining us here, sir. Now, I've just been wondering, do you suspect anybody is responsible for this?
Thank you for having me. I do not suspect anybody in fact. All that I was interested in protecting is that government bungalows should not be used by anybody, whoever the person is, to do whatever. So when I got the information by my security personnel that the vehicles were parked in the house, even upon their own resistance, that the person forced into there and parked the vehicles in, that was when I had to alert the security personnel, the customs, the BNI, and the police, even though I wasn't around. That they moved to the official residence and said exactly what vehicles they are, who parked them, and whether the vehicles are custom. So, yes, they came in swiftly. The vehicles were found to be custom.
All right, Mr. Agbenowo, but I'm sure there are a lot of official residences in Ketu South. Why would they leave it at yours?
Please come again.
I'm wondering why they would leave it at your residence, because there are a lot of official residences. Why your residence?
The stories are true. The stories I was getting are true. At a point in time, I got an information that the vehicles were parking and they had a problem. They had to park. At another point in time, the vehicles they came in with a gentleman who introduced himself, the security as the national security. So he was informed that the MC has given a directive and nobody comes here with any vehicle without it. But then my security also informed me that even upon their resistance, the man forced into the house. In fact, that was even what infuriated me. When I got there, I said, why would you force yourself into an official bungalow upon the resistance of the security? That was the reason why I had to call the people concerned, security concerned, to come to this and solve the situation in my work.
All right, Agbenowu, so as you're saying, you seem to believe the version of your security man, but just help us understand what your house looks like. Is it a gated house?
Just like any chief executive, municipal chief executive, or district chief executive resident. It's gated, big gate where vehicles pass, and a small gate where pedestrians or human beings pass.
All right, so now, do you know who came to park these vehicles at your house?
I don't know the person.
But you're head of the Security Council in that area, sir. And what have your men been telling you? Do they have any leads, any pointers?
Well, the name of the person was mentioned by my security. And it is the people who came to take the car away, the customs, the DNI, and the police. They are aware of the person who came to park, as was narrated by my security at the time of their arrival. So they are taking necessary steps to get it.
All right, Mr. Agbenowu, let me just ask this, because my colleague was telling me that one man came up to say that one of these vehicles was actually supposed to be a gift for the president. Have you heard anything like that? Are you aware of it?
I have no knowledge about that. I don't know who said that.
All right, finally, I mean, people bringing vehicles through Aflao using unapproved routes is not something, this is not the first time we are hearing of it. As MC for Ketu South, and obviously now we're hearing that your home was used, if I may use the word, as a transit, what are you doing to ensure that we don't have things like this happening?
Yes, Aflao is a border town, and in fact, as we rightly say, border towns are prone, so it's a lot of security challenges. But we are up to the task, myself and the Security Council. We have a very elaborate plan to make sure that security at our area and the municipality is put under control. One of the things I want to do immediately is to construct a road that is linking the border enclave from Segway to Aflao to allow for free flow of the security, the patrol. That is what we are doing, and many other things.
But Mr. Agbenowu, do you have any friends, colleagues, business partners who deal in vehicles, or somebody who's got quite a relationship with you who may want to leave these vehicles, and because of the way it's gotten, they wouldn't want to come and tell you, hey, that's my vehicle?
I cannot affect anybody, and I don't know of any other person that should be doing that. I think that person is to answer by the security, because when I got information about me, I've laid the information to them. So I don't know anybody.
All right, thank you very much for your time. That's Municipal Chief Executive for Ketu South, Elliot Edem Agbenowu, and he actually alerted security officials as a result of his curiosity after these vehicles were parked in his home. So finally, Jerry, just tell us what the security officials are saying. What are they doing proceeding with this case? Well,
what they're doing is that they're investigating who actually brought the cars into the country at the moment, because like the MCE said, he may not know who, but when they brought the cars to Accra, that was when someone owned up, and then these stories started coming up. So that's what we're also following up now.
Thank you very much, Jerry Mordi with myjoyonline.com. With those updates, we will be following this keenly and bring you updates as and when they're available. It's now time for business news with Emmanuel Abuajiriafe. Do stay.